Good evening. I'm Ralph Martinez, and this will end in darkness audio only episode. WRKM is on spring break, which means studio is unavailable. So I guess we're on spring break technically, but we're not. We're just recording from home. We could not leave you for a week. Next week I will be in Puerto Rico, but I will have a episode in the can for you. And it should be fun. Well, it's been 3 years. Happy Pandiversary. We did it 3 years ago. We were locked down, shut down, no work, no school, no nothing. You couldn't even hang out with anybody. You had to wear a mask walking down the block, even though you were the only one on the block. I do miss how empty it was in the city. I liked moving around with no one around. It was easy to get around. But here we are 3 years later. What's different? Everything. Everything is different. Some of your friends are different. Some of your family members are definitely different. That's something I've been seeing across the board. People, sharing their statuses from right before the pandemic started, when we all thought it would only be 2 weeks of hanging out at home. Then it turned into, well, for some of us 6 months, some of us a year. It all depended on how you handled it, whether you caught it or not, when you got vaccinated and all that. But we certainly did think it was just going to be 2 weeks of vacation. I certainly did. And I needed a vacation for my job at the time. But then, here we are, 3 years later. Almost a full year at home. You sit around, you start having thoughts. What am I doing with my life? My mortality is facing me one-on-one. I'm the man in the mirror, I think Michael Jackson called it. I'm staring at the pandemic in the mirror, We were all there. We all experienced it. But some people never came back, to be fair. Some people never came back. And I'm not talking about death, I'm talking about mentally. Some people just never came back. And we all know those people who are constantly scared of going to parties, asking still about people's vaccination cards and such. Have they been boosted? Well, I'm not going if they're not boosted. There are still some people who are taking insane lengths to stay COVID free. I saw a lady on Twitter who put up a post saying 3 years COVID free, but she had a whole assortment of items and accessories that helped her accomplish this. She had like a really expensive mask. She was constantly spraying down everything her hands touched. She was doing all the wild stuff that we found out didn't matter in the end. Masks didn't really work, did they? And it didn't really survive on surfaces, but to her it did. She was a doctor, apparently. Some kind of professor. I guess she didn't get the latest studies. It's kind of hard when you don't come back. She is still there, and of course she was talking about how everyone else in her airport was not being safe. Because us cool kids lived our lives after a while. The virus got weaker over time. What can you do? We figured out who was dying. The unhealthy people. Not saying I'm a fucking medical marvel. But hey, healthy enough, had it. Survived it. But it's the 3-year Pandiversary. And the question is, did you come back from the pandemic? Did you make it through? I think I did. For the most part. I don't think I ever got necessarily accustomed to walking in big crowds again. It just feels like everyone's going too slow now. And I'm just going too fast. I miss the old New York pace. It's not there really. It's a half step off. It's almost as if no one knows how to walk around the city anymore. This was my complaint in 2021, and it still persists. I don't know what that is. Is that long COVID? Is people's inability to judge walking scenarios part of long COVID? I think it might be. But some of those people just aren't coming back, man. I know people are on this kind of wave now where whoever was pro mandates, you can't trust them because they were giving the government too much power. And then for people who are pro mandates, you can't trust anti-vaxxers because they're going to kill your family. And it seems like no one wants to forgive one another for the things or decisions we make when we're scared. Because let's be honest here. There was no real 100% foolproof solutions. You can only go based on what you know, what was proven. But now there seems to be no forgiveness about what people do when they're scared. And come on now. We were all faced with our mortality on a global scale. And people are going to fuck up. Some people are going to give in to the weaknesses, however you view them, or whatever you view as a weakness. Do you really want to continue on keeping the old pandemic beefs? I don't see a point for it. Don't see a point for it. I have friends who were so adamant about the mandates that they're just not friends with other friends of mine anymore. They've kind of written them off. And it's unfortunate because that was a really good friend group we had. It was a really tight-knit group. And it all got torn apart by a virus that was made in a lab. That was even a point of contention for some people. Did you believe in natural theory or did you believe in the lab leak? That was fucking great for birthday parties. Watching people feverishly argue about something they knew nothing about. Guess what? Looks like lab leak. Just saying. But did you come back from the pandemic? Did you, the person listening, did you come back? What changed for you? Did you realize something you weren't doing before and now you're doing it? Did you start living life differently? I hope you did. Or if things were going fine before, I hope things went back to being fine. But wherever you were on the spectrum at that point, things changed. I'm starting to remember what it felt like being at home now that I'm laid off. I remembered it. I'm starting to remember what every day felt like. Waking up with nothing going on. I mean, in theory, I do have this and the things I'm writing, but that's different. Once again, it was the same thing in the pandy. I woke up and I was just doing day trading for the most part. Made a good chunk of change. Party City, all day, every day. RIP to Party City, by the way. They're falling apart. I had gotten them at 50 cents a share, rode that up to when they were $7. Had 1,000 shares. Boom. Now I'm not the smartest trader, but I did what I had to do. And it was a little easy when unemployment was so gargantuan. 900 a week was quite nice. It's not 900 a week anymore, I'll tell you that much. I could use it being 900 a week. But some people just didn't come back. So some people stayed there. Some people picked up new hobbies. Some became activists, apparently. And some have, for the most part, continued. Others, not so much. That's what happens when real life comes back around. You start caring about things that are more related to you. And you're no longer watching the same video on television over and over of a policeman killing a black person. You just kind of go, oh, I forgot all about that because I now go to my job, my 9 to 5. So I'm now no longer a civil rights activist. I'm just working at Walmart again. I'm back at it at T-Mobile. We all picked up hobbies. We all picked up identities. Some of us were virology experts. We all dropped that pretty quickly. It's interesting to see 3 years later where everyone's at. Some just never came back. And it's a sad realization of what the human mind can go through in such traumatic circumstances. And there has to be forgiveness for that, I think. Like, you have to get to a place where you go, hey, it happened. We all made some choices. We all picked up some beliefs. And now it's done. Is the pandemic over? Who knows? Apparently, for me it is. For most of the world it is. For some it isn't. What can you do for those people? Accept them. Embrace them. Play along, really. You can't bring them back. People, I think, in general, want to feel safe. And when people were at home and they were in control of their environment, they had never felt safer. And that's totally understandable. Totally understandable. But the second you try to get them to go outside, whew, now outside's not safe. Now no one's safe. And to be honest, what are you more afraid of? COVID-19 or nuclear apocalypse? I would say nuclear apocalypse should jump up to the top on that one. We're a bit closer to that now. Just some people aren't coming back. And you can try to create a welcoming atmosphere for these people and go, hey man, I get it, but have you seen the numbers recently? Do you see that everyone's going outside now? The world kicked back on. It's time to go. They don't see it. They don't see it. And that's, I think it corresponds to how available things became. Amazon was the supply line for everything. And they only got bigger and they only got better at it. So now you kind of don't have to go outside. You can order your groceries from Amazon. Probably take a day to get there to you. Unless you have to get fresh thing, then it'll arrive same day. I don't got time for that. I'd rather just go to the grocery store. Everything you ever wanted to watch was on your TV, your streaming services. You were getting unemployment money. Now some people work from home. There was no reason to leave the house. Home had to become the only sanctuary, the only place you could trust. Which was comfortable for a lot of people because at least you knew the politics of the people you lived at home with. So you weren't had to confronted with other people who thought differently than you. In essence, you were in heaven, kind of. I think those people had already died. Those people had already died. And home was their heaven. Hey, society's over, I'm dead, forget about me, I'm home. And I understand that. Because home can be really comforting for a while. Then it gets really frustrating. Then you had things like Clubhouse pop up, which provided a level of interaction with people. Randos and chat rooms where you could argue about anything. I recently got back on the Clubhouse because I kind of missed it. I liked doing my social safari of the weirdos that exist. It's pretty great. I've gotten into the conspiracy rooms, and because they're on Clubhouse, they're still arguing all the old COVID-19 conspiracies. Clubhouse is kind of been frozen in time. It's still in 2020, kind of, but in the most unhinged kind of way. None of the cool people are there anymore. Everyone else moved on to real interactions. Now just the losers are left. And I like those losers. I was in a chat room. I was in a club. Let's call it a room. Let's use the Clubhouse vernacular. I was in one of the rooms, and they were talking conspiracy. But biblical conspiracy. How God was the devil, actually. And the serpent was actually the good guy because he gave humans the knowledge. He gave them the apple that brought them to having self-awareness against God's orders. So I watched Black Israelites and, I guess, spiritual people just yell scripture at one another and just reinterpret it however they saw fit. One lady said the apple represented Eve's womb. Was she wrong? I don't know. I'm not well versed in the spiritual realm, apparently. I don't have the range. I like how that's a new thing now, a new insult. Either you have the range or you don't for certain conversations. It's kind of nice. Even though those people who say you don't have the range tend to not have the range themselves. Kind of great. But a lot of people in that time period, on things like Clubhouse, on the internet, on YouTube, had developed followings because deep down we really wanted someone to tell us it was going to be okay. And it was kind of a hyper realization of what Trump had pulled off, the strongman thing. Everyone wants a strongman deep down. You all want to know it's going to be okay. It's why Biden got in as well. He's Papa Biden. He's soft. He's nice. He's going to reassure you, the dark Brandon memes, whatever. Like, this was a guy who made you feel safe, and we all wanted to feel safe. So watching Clubhouse, having been there when it boomed, watching all these people have become kind of prophets for profit. They were not just giving you advice and not putting you on, That's how they catch you every time. I'm putting you on to real shit. But while you're here, though, subscribe to my Substack. Subscribe to my YouTube. Hit me on the Cash App. That's what it became. And it's interesting to see that it still continues because some people haven't come back. Some just aren't going to come back. Some need it. And you look at these cathedrals of fear and people assign themselves to them. They believe in them and they're fed exactly what they want to hear. They know all the Psalms. They know all the songs. It doesn't matter. No new information ever gets into those places. That was one of my favorite things about it. It was all theories, no facts in those rooms. And you kind of saw the unmaking of people's brains where logic just no longer existed and what you felt. That was another thing about it. They were going so hard on their interpretations of it that even when a guy who was going, well, this is the actual translation, these are what the actual words mean, they're like, well, I don't have to take that from you. Forget your definitions. I don't abide by those definitions. I have my own definition, sir. Which is fine, I guess. But words do matter. Definitions do kind of matter. But that was the thing about, the pandy. We all got to come up with our own solutions. We all got to come up with our own religions almost. I've always believed that at our base, what we can call our lives is our own gospel. And we're all learning how to live life the best we can. And we pass on that information to other people, our stories, our fears, our hopes. And the most you can do with those is hope you learn something from them. But I think some have dug in so deeply that their reality is the only reality that matters. And unless you are able to feed their reality, not much matters after that. When I looked at that lady on Twitter and she was talking about how she was 3 years COVID free, and she was still doing everything they told you to do to stay away from the virus. I had to ask myself, is she getting laid? Because I don't think she was. Who's fucking that person? Nobody. I'm not fucking somebody like that. That's too much precaution. A condom's enough. Birth control is enough, my opinion. But some have bought into an identity of what the pandemic did for them, and that's where they're at. I still can't even believe it happens sometimes. But then I can, because I think deep down as a kid, I was always waiting for it to all fall apart. When you're a Catholic, you kind of want the apocalypse. You kind of do, because it sounds kind of cool when they talk about it. There's a big battle. It's epic as fuck. You're in the in crowd, so you're not going to be there for it. You get to watch it, not be part of it, you know. So I always kind of wanted the apocalypse as a young Catholic kid. And I got to live through one. It was nice. But now there's been a course correction in the economy, and now banks are falling. It's not just crypto. It's actual money that's fallen. The entertainment business is course correcting because it kind of spent too much money on technology that they didn't realize was going to actually cut jobs out of the business. And now there's plenty of layoffs in the entertainment business. There's kind of layoffs everywhere. I can't say, well, I still believe in the general American being kind of smart. Like, I still believe that there is a baseline IQ of this country that has common sense. But when you add the level of extreme emotion that we added during the pandemic, both politically, both health-wise, all that shit, scientifically, I think it just broke some people. And those people are just broken now. And they're not going to go look for help because they don't think they're broken. They're just being safe. They're just doing what feels right. And that's the real problem with institutionalized failure. People just do what feels right. And none of the things you've built a society on don't make sense anymore. Damn shame, too. You know, I wonder what things would be like without the pandemic. Because we were already in a fever pitch with old Donald Trump there. He had kind of brought us to a wild place. And the pandemic has exasperated that. But would he still be president today? Maybe. I still don't think anyone could have handled it. I don't think anyone would have got it right. But shout out to Fauci, he had a great pandemic. He went from being a nobody to being a celebrity. Now being a hero. He's a god to some people. His word is bond, bruh. Can't go wrong. Even though now he's admitting, maybe the lag leak has a point. He went from I am the science to, oh, I've learned some new science. Did you come back from the pandemic is something I think about a lot. When I look at people I care about, when I look at people on the street, how many of them actually came back? And I don't think many did. And that could be a good thing too, though. Because I whoever I was before the pandemic wasn't really serving me. you know. I'm recording this at home too, hence the extra noise. But I don't think it was serving me. I don't think it was productive. It was certainly reductive. But I'm probably more creative now than I've ever been. I certainly looked at my life and went, what was I doing with it? And I made a course correction. That's not easy for some folks. And for you listening, there's still time to make a course correction. There's still time to be a bit different than you were before it. Because now the playing field has been blown up. It's a wasteland. We talk about it every week, how this is your weekly apocalyptic acceptance therapy. I'm stumbling my words a lot these days, Bobby. Maybe my tongue no longer fits my mouth. Maybe I should get plastic surgery and shorten it. A tongue shave. But you have to let it go. Whatever you were during the pandemic, you gotta let it go. And start embracing that the world's back now. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Lessons can be learned, but are you applying them? What are you doing with your time? That was a constant thing we talked about when we came out the pandemic. What are you doing with your time now? Everyone just moved right back on. And if you're still staying in stasis, then what are you doing? That's hard for some people to reconcile. I last week we were joking about how some people were telling Chris Rock how to handle his trauma. But I'm going to tell you now how to handle your trauma. Get over it. No, that's mean. But at least I'm asking you, what are you doing with your trauma? Still in your suitcase? Still carrying it around? Still scared of every little thing? How's that working out for you? Yeah, maybe this spring break was a good idea for WRKM. Maybe things at the network have been getting kind of weird. We've all been a little stressed and worked out or overworked. Maybe this little break was nice, but I didn't want to miss a week, man. I look forward to this shit. If that makes any sense. As pathetic as that sounds, I do look forward to this. There was a lady in the clubhouse room. She was giving a lecture to government officials today about child services or educational things. And she said the lines, some of you in this room called CPS on me, but now look at me. I'm giving lectures to CPS. And I went, well, how about that? That's a come up. From crazy person to almost losing their children to now a person telling people how not to lose their children. That's a glow up. That is a glow up. If I ever seen one. There is something to really looking back at this Pandiversary and just realizing, man, I'm not even friends with some people. And not because I chose not to be. Just our lives move differently. Some people just left the city. Some people just left New York. I'm out, done, bye. I'll keep in contact. No, you won't. You're in a different city now. There's no reason for you to. What are we gonna do? Video chat? I don't do that shit. I realize how much I don't even like this city. I'm not even sure I like New York anymore. I had heard theory that you're not going to want to stay at the place you quarantined because all you'll do is remember those quarantine memories. Now, I don't think I'm there. I don't think I have that kind of ill will. But I'm certainly not happy to be here. There's something about this city that's just confining. But then again, I have nowhere else to go, so this is it. Make the best of what you can do here. But I've been going out a lot, walking around just. It's my favorite time of year. I love March. I love March going into April because the time changes, the evenings, are a little later. You get good sunsets, more people out and about. You kind of get a good energy out of it. Those of us who did start to go outside, all kind of, I think we all needed it. I was one of the first people outside. Like every day during the pandemic, I was trying to walk around. I'd do like a 5-mile walk or something just to get that vitamin D. And then when other people started coming out, we all kind of needed each other at some point, whether we knew it or not. We didn't have to speak to each other. We didn't really, a lot of us probably didn't even interact. We were still scared of catching it, but we needed to see other people. We need to see a city alive again. So maybe that's the good part about it. Maybe that's what keeps me here. That as much as I don't like New York these days, just knowing there are people in close proximity is kind of nice. But, it's, once again, some of those people didn't come back. And if you are someone who didn't come back, hey, this is me calling you. Come outside. Come back. Because at this point, what are you afraid of? There's tons to do, I think. I could be wrong. But she really sat there and was patting her back for 3 years COVID-free. And I had never wanted to see a streak broken more. I want her to get it. Not because I want her to get sick or anything bad to happen to her. I hope she gets it and it goes right through her. Like it just doesn't affect her. But I want that positive COVID test. So she can shut the fuck up about being COVID-free for 3 years. So mean, but it's so true. Yeah, I'll never forget just laying around, just thinking what the next move was. When things do come back, how am I going to approach things? And you know what I did? I went right back to business as usual. I went right back to the way things used to be. Because as much as I hated the normalcy of my life, I felt comfortable in my normalcy. And I went right back to it. I didn't even give it a second thought either. I just went right back. Now I'm kind of given a second chance now. Now I can kind of decide what the normalcy is. I have parts of it figured out. Not a whole lot. But I'll get there. And I know some of you are going through it. That's why I don't mind doing these kind of episodes, Not everything's ha-has all the time. Some real shit does happen. And I know real shit happens to you, and Maybe you just want to know someone's out there that's going through it too. Maybe you just need someone to echo how you're feeling. I know how you're feeling. Everything looks scary as fuck right now. Everything looks like it's about to collapse. But as we always say here, fuck it. We have an optimistic, nihilistic approach here. Sure, it's the end of the world, but there's probably something after it. That's how I got through the pandemic. I think there's that part in Everything Everywhere All at Once where he says, the husband character in an alternate timeline tells the main character, Evelyn, that seeing the best in things is not a weakness, it's a strategy to survive. It's not naive, it's survival. And that's really what it is. In essence, we're all just surviving. We're all just passing time until we die. It's pretty much it. I'm not saying anything particularly groundbreaking there. Maybe a little unfortunate, but it's true. We are all passing time before we die. And I think the pandemic did that to us. Like we figured it out. Oh no, that's what's happening here. Some of us leaned in and had a good time. Some of us had the worst of times for circumstances beyond our control. But that was 3 years ago. Like it's time. It's time to come back. It's time to wake and go, hey, we had a run. I got to hang at home with my family and there were cool stuff on Disney Plus. Awesome. But it's time to go back. I saw Creed 3 in theaters the other day. Man, it feels good to be back in crowded theaters again. Consecutively, too. I've been seeing all the big movies. Just being in those crowded theaters again. I never knew I'd miss that aspect of seeing a movie. Even though, if it's cheaper to watch it at home, I'll just build a home theater. But it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. So yeah, I guess this will be a shorter episode this week. But I guess, the point of this one, I guess. I keep saying I guess a lot because I don't know. Maybe it's insecurity. Maybe I don't know if what I'm saying even makes any sense. But it's time to come back. It's time to forgive people you got into arguments with. Because everyone was scared to death. We were deer staring at headlights. We were gazelles with a lion roaming free. And none of us knew which one would get eaten first. So many people were on Instagram just feeling miserable because they're watching other people's pandemics and how their backyards are nice and how, Jennifer Lopez has this fucking nice thing going on. Fuck her. She's got money. Of course she's having a fantastic pandemic. It's got a great house. I don't think Ben Affleck was living there at the time. He should have been. Because Ben Affleck is great. She should have never left Ben. Probably the best thing that ever happened to her and her acting career too. Ever since he came back around, she's doing a bit better now, isn't she? Jennifer Lopez through osmosis becomes the person she's dating. That's how it works. She's a stem cell dater. I like it. I respect it. But yeah, man. I just been thinking about it. And how in a lot of ways I didn't learn as much as I thought I had learned about myself. I did make a bold move. I started this show. And I'm very proud of what it does. I'm very proud of the numbers it does. Very proud of the clips and all that and the production we do for it. Very. But then I slipped right into normalcy. And I allowed things I cared about to suffer again. Whether it was my mental health, my spiritual health, this show on occasion. Three years, man. 3 fucking years. Just passed by like that. And we've been together, me and you, listener, for the last 2. Just trying to make sense of where our lives are going. I think I know where it's going for me. I think I figured some stuff out. I hope you figured some stuff out. And if you haven't, be kind to yourself. You're gonna. Just keep researching, keep searching in your soul and your mind. Just, take a moment just by yourself. That's it. Just go somewhere and be alone for like 20 minutes. Close your eyes. And just imagine anything. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? How scary was it to face down a global pandemic? Remember that? Good. Now relight that fire. Because in 3 years, we may have forgotten what that's like. Now, I ain't gonna say you gotta be scared to go outside or scared to catch it. But you have to remember that energy. That anything I can do, I will do. Anything I want to do is reachable. That's what I would suggest. That's what I've been doing. I don't know if it's going to work for me. Maybe it'll work for you. But we're in it together, I think. Aren't we? But who knows, maybe I'm just full of shit. And maybe we both know how this one is going to end. But it doesn't